Hi, everyone. I'm Tony Rivera. I am the Digital Marketing Coordinator for the Christopher and Dan Reed Foundation. I'd like to welcome you all to this month's online chat with Dr. Dan. Dr. Dan is a practicing psychologist and therapist for more than 40 years. He began his family practice in 1969 after receiving undergraduate and graduate degrees at Temple University. In 1979, Dan was in a near-fatal automobile accident, which left him paralyzed from the chest down. You can find Dr. Dan in our online community answering questions within his Dr. Dan on Wellbeing section of the Paralysis Community Forum. He also hosts a monthly live online discussion for the Reed Foundation, and we thank you for joining us today. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Dan. Hey, Dr. Dan.
Hey, Tony. So today's chat is about post-traumatic growth, and I can give you a little definition of that. So while you were introducing me, Tony,
Yes.
I picked up my modified mug to take a drink of water, and I dumped 3/4 of it on my lap, in an area of my lap that you just don't want looking soaking wet. So, if that had happened to me 30 years ago, I would have been filled with self-pity and anger and shame and, those emotions happened to me now, and I think it's just a perfect setup to today's discussion. So I'm a happy boy. And not only that, but my cleaners stands to make $1.99 on it. So it's a win-win all around, I think, except for my poor laugh. So most people don't talk about post-traumatic growth. Although most people who have experienced trauma have experienced growth. So I'm going to ask you a question, Tony, and you can be as personal or impersonal as you wish. Have you ever experienced a trauma?
Yeah. I mean, how would you specify trauma? I mean, when I was younger, I lost my father. Would that count as one?
Yeah. How old were you?
I was 5, so it was roughly 20 years ago.
Okay. So you remember it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, still to this day, I could remember the exact day it happened and how I felt and how everyone felt. It's still there.
So, if I can ask, how did you feel when you were 5?
I mean, when I was 5, I didn't really know what was going on, but I know that I know that I lost something really big, a part of my life, so I did feel the sadness. And I guess it did not really click in until maybe a couple months later, where I know that he wasn't going to be around anymore. So I would definitely say I definitely had the sadness and just the feeling of unknown for a while.
And you said you feel it today.
Absolutely. 20 years later, and I still feel the after effects.
How so?
Losing my father like that, even when I was young, when I was younger, I didn't realize what I was losing. And then now, since I am older, when you're older, you kind of wish you learned things that maybe a father would have taught you.
Mm.
So there are some times that I sit here, I'm like, I didn't get that chance to learn from him, so I had to, go through it myself.
In what ways are you a changed man as a result of that, in your opinion?
I would say I would have to, if I had to really say, I would say that I had to learn and adapt a lot quicker, since I didn't have a father figure to turn to and ask. So I had to really learn things on my own, especially things that maybe a man should know, I guess, if that's correct to say.
So in what ways are you changed for the worse, and what ways are you changed for the better? If either, Tony.
I mean, loaded question, Dr. Dan.
Listen, pal. If it's too personal, then please feel free not to answer.
No, that's definitely a question I'm definitely open to answer. Just gotta think on it. For the worst, I would say I guess not having that father figure around. I didn't have the opportunities to be, more manly man of the family. I wasn't able to be all macho all the time. I was surrounded by my mom, my sisters, my grandmother. And I guess that could be a huge positive thing too. So to flip it to the other side, I was able to grow up with a different part of the family that taught me different ways that maybe if my dad was around, I would have taught otherwise.
So I think that's a great answer. So do you consider yourself understanding or compassionate?
100%. And I could definitely say I learned that through time. It took me a while, but I could 100% say that I am understanding and I am compassionate. And I hope so. I hope people see that.
Well, it's more important right now what you experience. So, did you learn any lessons about life, death? Maybe what it means to be a man or what it doesn't mean to be a man?
Absolutely, especially to the life-death part. I did have a lot of losses in my life. I lost my father. I lost my grandfather, especially really young. So I understand how death is. I understand you can't take things for granted. You have to live your life every single day, and any time it could be taken away. But I also understand life and how you need to be as good as you can be every single day to live your life how you want it to be. And growing up as a man, I believe so. I believe that I taught myself the most I can to grow up how to be a man and how a man should act, I guess.
Yeah. So, Tony, you've just defined trauma, and you've defined post-traumatic growth. You've also defined post-traumatic stress also.
Wow.
You did talk about all the difficulties you lived with and continue to live with. So that's a post-traumatic stress reaction, not a disorder, but it's a reaction and post-traumatic growth. It's the very definition of it. But so I really, really appreciate your openness about it.
No, absolutely.
So you said you taught yourself about what it means to be a man. Could you give us a summary about what does it mean to be a man?
I mean, I guess it could change from every guy to guy, of course. But I guess my definition, since I was grown up with majority women raising me, I feel like I've grown to understand that, a man's supposed to be strong, you're supposed to be caring for your family. But I feel like I was able to combine my mother's wisdom, my grandmother's compassion, my sister's care, and put that all together and say, you know what, a man's definition is not just, the grizzled guy that's sitting there all stern. It's the guy that stands there that's compassionate about life, the guy that's there that's caring, and the guy that's looking forward and not looking back.
Well, that's a gift. And it's a gift that you may not have received had your father been there to teach it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you would have learned his definition.
Yeah, I agree.
And now, painful as it has been, you've discovered your own.
I agree. I never looked at it that way.
Yeah. A lot of questions come up when we, especially men, experience trauma. Because, especially disability. So, being a man traditionally means to be, independent and to be strong in the physical sense. And many of us, myself, I've lost both of those. And so I struggled, and I know many have struggled with the question, what does it mean to be a man now? Tony, it had to be a few months ago I commented on our web chat about how 20 years ago I gave a lecture to medical students and to doctors. So I'm sitting in the back waiting to go on stage, and there's a bunch of doctors and medical students in front of me. They didn't know I was back there. And one doctor stands up, he's a urologist, and they were talking about spinal cord injury. So he raises a question. He says, tell me, how can I tell my male patients that they're now a half a man? So that's the definition, right? If you can't climb on top of somebody you're making love to, if you can't ejaculate, then you're half a man. And so we grow up with these very narrow definitions of what it means to be a man. And if we are lucky, we get to learn what you've learned and what I've learned. We've been hearing from Randall Wright in the chat room here, and Randall gave me permission, so I'm going to read for all of us what he said, and this is right on target, Tony, about what we've been talking about. So Randall says, I was a little cold-hearted about some things, but not anymore. Just a big crying softly now. He says, from a man to a baby because of an aneurysm during brain surgery. I just want to get back to a job to keep me busy because my brain never shuts off. Here's the deal. We think that crying makes you less of a man. And I cry a lot. And probably more now, even more now as I get older, because it's easier to do that. It does make me less of a man. Tony, I have discovered that being strong really means to be comfortable with your weakness, that a real man, a strong man, feels safe being vulnerable, is not afraid to love or be tender-hearted. That's my definition in my mind of strength. After my marriage, Tony, my wife left after 10 years, and oh my God, I was so dependent on her. I did nothing to her, but I did nothing but depend on her. And she was my everything, and then she left, and I didn't even know how I was going to go shopping to buy clothes for myself. So I was driving back then. I took myself to Macy's, and I went to the shoe department. Now, why a quadriplegic would take himself to the shoe department on his first outing, I don't know. But I did. So, of course, I'm looking at shoes, and I can't see the shoes on the top two racks, nor I can't reach them on the bottom. So I'm looking at the shoes on one rack, and a guy comes up to me and he says, "Can I help you?" And I didn't want to be dependent, so I said, "No, I'm good." So I pick out a pair of shoes. I don't try them on. I just give them a size that is 2 sizes larger than what shoe I used to wear, so I know it all. And I go home. So I go home, I open the box, and I effing hated these shoes. I hated it. But I wanted to pretend to be independent, you know. From then on, I've uttered 3 words that have changed my life and made my life easier. 3 words. Please help me. Please help me. And it takes strength, courage, and self-confidence to say those 3 words. For men and women, please help me. We always used to think that being strong meant I can do it myself. Please help me takes a lot of strength. A lot of strength. So those are just my thoughts about what it means to be a man. So we've got a couple others. Tony, I saw you were giving me a hand with your questions here. And I'd love to hear somebody call in. Tony, do we know if anybody's called in?
I don't believe so. If you're on the line, press *1, and you could start talking. But we do have a few questions on here, if you want to check, Dr. Dan.
Yes, sir. So we've got James Gill. I'm a recent paraplegic as of June 2015, just passed an anniversary. L4, L5 incomplete. He says, about that current caller, there's an organization called the New Warrior Mankind Project. It's modeling authentic masculinity, the archetypes, the king lover, warrior magician. It's all about Robert Moore and Iron John. I don't know. It's funny, James, that you brought that up. I saw a patient this morning that brought that name up, and I hadn't heard that name in many, many years. Have you ever read, Tony, any of Iron John work?
No, I have not. I definitely should check it out, though.
Yeah. And Jonathan, after 28 years of marriage, she left. Did I hear that right? I don't know who you're talking about, Jonathan. If you could call in, that would be great. No, my wife left after 20 years of marriage, but she left after 10 years of me being in the wheelchair. So, I think what the research shows is that you've got a great marriage when you have your accident, but the accident's not going to damage your marriage. If you've got a marriage that is shaky before the accident could be the tipping point. But, no surprise there because, after a lot of years of marriage, there's a whole life in this relationship before the accident. So if anyone wants to chime in about post-traumatic growth, I want to hear the good news about your trauma. What have you learned? What have you learned about life itself? What have you learned about yourself, your own resilience? Have you become more compassionate or less? Have you become more open or more closed? How does the world look to you now compared to before your accident? How do people look to you? More kind or more threatening? And, Tony, we hear a lot from, well, I'll give you an example. When my grandson was born on the autism spectrum, I met a lot of people whose children were on the autism spectrum. And since, I must have met hundreds, plural. And, I speak to these parents, and with one exception, every one of them has said their lives are so much more difficult now. But they know how to love better. They appreciate life better. They are better people, more kind, more compassionate, and they have no regrets. So that's post-traumatic growth. That's what post-traumatic growth is. You hear it from people who are cancer survivors, and even if they're not survivors, you hear it from them. I'll give you one great example, Tony. I had a woman on my radio show many years ago who was diagnosed. She just got her master's degree in social work. She just got diagnosed, and she's had 4 kids, diagnosed with a form of breast cancer that's lethal. I think it's called infectious or something, but it's got a very poor prognosis. So we stayed connected, she and I, over the next few months as she got worse. And I gave her a call one day. It was early spring, like March, early April, something. And I said, "Where are you?" She said, 2 friends of hers helped her down to the beach in Ocean City, New Jersey, and brought her a chair and brought her 4 kids. And she said, so I'm sitting on this chair all bundled up, and I'm watching my kids play on the beach. She said, Dan, she said, I think today is the best day of my whole life. That's what trauma can do for us. You can taste the air. You can inhale more deeply. You can see more clearly. That's post-traumatic growth. I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend trauma. But, boy, we can grow from it. And I'm looking for a caller or comment.
Excuse me, Dr. Dan. We do have 2 callers on the phone line.
Okay.
The first one from Paul Melvin.
Okay. All right. You said Paul Miller?
Paul Melvin.
Melvin. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Dr. Dan. I've been on a couple of these calls in the past, and I always go away from them feeling better. So I greatly appreciate it. But yeah, I'm moved by Tony's story to lose your dad at 5 years old. It has to be traumatic, certainly. And I guess I was writing down a couple of things. I'm spinal cord injured at T2, T3 level for 38 years, and I'm thinking of some of the ways that it's impacted me in a positive way. I can go on about the negative ways, but we on this call, it mentioned positive changes. But one thing that I found that I can remember being, self-conscious about my, about being in the chair, and I was fortunate enough to be, I guess, a high-level power, so I drove a car and was pretty strong and all. And the background on my injury is that I was shot. I got shot 4 times, and I can remember you mentioned. I liked your story about Macy's. This is a little different, but I can remember my partner at the time. We had a new son who that was a strong impetus for me to get out, and live quickly. I was injured up in Vermont, and a lot of times when you say gunshot wound, people, oh, you're dealing drugs or you're doing this, and but it was totally, I was totally innocent. I didn't know the person, and I was shot through a wooden door. I didn't know that I was going to be shot, but I can remember a point where I was going in to see my son's mother at work. She worked at a pretty good restaurant, and I was like, I felt very self-conscious about it. And just making a contract with myself, I said, I did not do this to myself. I didn't have anything, I wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm never going to apologize for my disability. And so that became, I don't know if default would be the word for it, but I think that made me do more, looking back to the theme of this, the positive effects, if we could call them that. Like you say, you wouldn't recommend going this route to get self-improvement. But thereafter, any time I was in doubt about doing something, I would remember that agreement that, I probably did more than because of that agreement. It was like, hey, you made a deal with yourself, buddy. so if something was in question, I went ahead and did it, whether it was, accepting an invitation with friends to go out to dinner or, making some sort of trip or something. I would think of that contract with myself, and I always considered that a positive. And then and one thing that's been deep in human relationships, that when I was shot, we lived out, about a half hour from a hospital or anything in rural Vermont, and so I didn't know if I was going to make it because I was bleeding quite a bit, and but I remember thinking, gee, I hope everybody that I know knows I love them, and I hope there isn't any petty argument or anything, that my parents were still alive at the time, and siblings, and I don't think by nature I'm a really combative person or anything. I don't hold grudges, or you called me last, or I called you last, so I'm not going to call you again, type of thing. But anyway, that was another sort of agreement / contract I made with myself to always, and to this day I don't know if I've been perfect on it, but I haven't been perfect on it, but I always, when I'm ending a conversation with my son or with my sister or something like that, usually express my love and appreciation for their being them for me. And there's other things. I did go on to get my education. I don't know if I would have done that if I hadn't gotten a spinal cord injury. I enjoyed Go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm going on too long. I didn't mean to.
No. You said you don't know if you would have gotten your education if it weren't for the spinal cord injury. Why is that?
Well, no, because I was, and you could probably relate to it. We're in similar age ranges. I'm 63 now, so the Vietnam War, everybody went to college with the draft going on and things like that. And I'm exaggerating. A lot of people went to college, and it was also in my family. It was kind of there was an expectation, sort of, that you would go to college. But I was the youngest, or I'm thinking that because my 3 older siblings did, and I went to 1 semester of community college out in, after high school, and then decided, well, this is good, but I want to get out and see the world more. And there was, and then I did. I lived up in Boston, out in California, and eventually ended up in Vermont. My brother, who had graduated from college up in New England, lived there with some friends and shared a farmhouse. So anyway, I didn't think I would get back to it, but because I needed to, the old saying, if you can't make a living with your back, make it with your brain. And not that I had a great brain, but I did it. And it was a tremendous opportunity for me. It turned out to be. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I want to double all the way back to
Okay.
make an observation.
Okay.
So one thing is that pact you made.
Yes.
And there was something inside of you that I'm just guessing, you don't even have to respond, that was inside of you probably before your accident. And that's a piece of you that was resilient. And it's in all humans that says in the face of adversity, almost any adversity, says, okay, this sucks. Now how am I going to live with this? And that's in the hard wiring of all sentient beings. No, of all living things, including plants. But the other thing you said that was critically important was about your loved ones. And I remember when I had my accident, as they were pulling me out of the car, I was about 60 miles from home, 60, 70 miles from home. I said to whoever was pulling me out, I said, please call everybody I know to get here right away. And that was the last thing I remember for 70 years.
Yes, I can relate to that, yes.
It's something in our core. It's something in our core. We are social animals. We need the kindness and love of others in order to survive. Without that, we don't survive. And just one final thought, Paul. You talked about your contract. I'd like to share mine. As
Please.
I'm fumbling around trying to figure out how to do this, thank God I was a psychologist when I had my accident. But I recall a colleague of mine, a friend and a colleague, I was going through a particularly bad time. And she stood next to me and put her hand on my shoulder. And she said, Dan, you're a teacher now. You're teaching others what it means, what it's like to be a quadriplegic, to be in a wheelchair. She said, what you teach them is up to you. Like it or not, you're a teacher. That's a simple truth of your life. And it was a very powerful lesson for me. And what I want to teach the world is that you can be disabled and happy. You can be disabled and generous and loving. You can be disabled and care about others. And you can be disabled and you can cry and be dependent and ask for help and be whole all at the same time. So I've been spending the bulk of these last 37 years doing just that, or trying my best to do just that. When I see someone in the street, I smile at them. I'm sure I get on people's nerves. People think I'm weird, which I am, but that's not my intent. So, Paul, I really appreciate your call and for all the wisdom you brought for all of us. You were all of our teachers.
Well, I thank you, because what I often marvel at what you do. As I say, I'm only a paraplegic, and knowing your level of injury and being approximately being similar ages and similar length of injury, I think, my goodness, where's Dr. Dan? When you said, I saw a patient this morning, I'm like, just doing this conference call is, you've probably experienced some fatigue over the decades, and so now you're doing Yeah, you're fulfilling your contract. Thank you so much too.
Take
It's
for yourself, Paul.
okay.
Tony,
Yeah, Dr. Dan.
Paul said, he was sure I experienced fatigue over these decades. Are you kidding me? Fatigue since I ate lunch today. So we heard that.
Actually, Dr. Dan, I think we actually have one more caller. Hey, Kathy, do we have another caller?
Yes, so you do have a caller by the name of Lynn Rauer.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Dr. Dan. I've spoken to you once or twice before. To remind you, I'm the one that the doctor did no imaging and put a stimulator in my back, and now I'm a paraplegic because of it.
Right.
I have a question for you, and I need for you to think about this and answer me to help me. I have spent the last 6 years and 3 days apologizing for being the way I am, for peeing on the floor, for watching my husband pick up the poop off the floor, and all I do is apologize. And I know that this wasn't my fault, but I can't help feeling so apologetic to anybody and everybody around me. And I don't know how to turn that corner to stop that. I have a happy disposition. Everybody says, oh, you know, you're so brave, blah, blah, blah. But when I'm alone and whenever I'm having a moment like last night, and I was so happy to hear that you were going to be on the radio because I really need help with putting to bed feeling like I have done something so wrong because it has affected my family so much, and I want to be better. I want to mentally be better with all this. Do you have some advice for me?
Some what?
Advice for me?
Well, I got good news and bad news. So here's the good news. There's nothing about apologizing. Apologizing is a reflex reaction and has nothing to do with the emotions you're feeling.
Oh.
That's the good news.
I'm so compelled to
I know you
apologize.
do. You know why you're compelled? Just because it's a habit. You know, it's just a habit. You know, you put on my coat, I apologize. You know, you clean up after me, I apologize. You cut my meat, I apologize. It's just a habit. So that doesn't mean it's easy to change, but it's just a habit. But most important here, it doesn't capture the real emotion. So, you know, I'm in a significant relationship here. And, you know, when I ask the person I'm with, my girlfriend, lady friend, to cut my food, it doesn't feel good. I know it doesn't mean a damn thing to her, but it does to me.
Right. That's how I feel.
Dearly, and I hate that she has to cut my food. Damn it, I want to cut hers. I want to put her coat on and not have her mine on. And I am frustrated about it, and I feel terribly about it. And it's got nothing to do with her. This is all about me and my own stories inside my head. So, I don't apologize. Well, I lied. I do apologize to her. But the real suffering I experience is that I am sorry that she has to do this for me. I am sorry, and despite all these years, I wish it were the other way around.
Well, that's how and I don't want to get stuck there. I feel like I'm just stuck there.
Well, you're stuck apologizing for who you are. But just listen to me. When someone helps you, especially cleans up your pee or your poop, it feels awful. It feels awful. But we, you and I and everyone listening, have to think about them and their feelings, not ours. What are they feeling? How can we help them? By expressing our deep gratitude. That's all we can do. We don't have the power to hold our bowels or our bladder, or not to drop crap on the floor every meal like I do. We don't have that power. But we have the power to express our deepest, deepest, heartfelt gratitude that we are with somebody who cares enough, who loves us enough to help us with our lives. It is humbling that we are so fortunate to have this person or these people in our lives. And all we can do for them is to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay. I really think that's going to help me.
Take care of them as they take care of you.
And that is really going to help me. I need to get out of myself. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah, we all do.
If I could have just 1 second for another quick question.
I might have to charge you overtime.
The other thing that I have trouble with is I feel like I've entered a different culture. Not just sort of like how I think of if a person can't speak and they have a culture of signing and they live in a different culture, and I feel like I was thrusted into this new culture and it's difficult for me to accept it. Do you have any advice about that, or do you know what I'm talking about? Have you ever felt that way?
Oh, sure. Sure, of course. I think we all have. I mean, we all say that we've all joined a club that nobody wants to be a part of.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're in this club. I remember the first time I went to a physical therapy gym after my accident. We're talking about a month or 6 weeks after my accident. I go into this gym and I see all of these broken bodies in there, these amputees and people hobbling around and people with strokes, and oh my God, it was like a nightmare. And then I realized I'm worse off than all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, the nightmare I was having a couple of minutes ago felt pretty good compared to what I was feeling now. But
yeah.
So here I am. So I'm in this club, and you know what I found in this club? And I want you to look at us the same way, all of us, that we have experienced great suffering, that we want well-being, that we want to love and to be loved for who we are. That's true for me. That's true for Paul, who we just spoke to. It's true for Randall, who I spoke about earlier, and it's true for everyone listening. We've endured great suffering. We want well-being. We want to love and be loved for who we are. It's just that.
You know what I think I need to do, Dr. Dan? I think I need to learn to love myself the way I am now. I think that's the problem. I think that's why I apologize. It's not the word I'm sorry, it's the feeling behind it. And I need to learn to love myself the way I am now, which is very difficult for me. I mean, it's stupid that I used to wear high heels and I loved it, and I used to travel. I can't do anything like that anymore. But I need to learn to love my new self.
Well, let me make two recommendations. And I want, Tony, if you're there, will you type this information in the chat box for everybody?
Absolutely.
The name is Kristen, Kristen, Neff, Neff, PhD. She is a psychology professor, University of Texas, Austin, and she is on the forefront and known now worldwide for her teachings in self-compassion. She's got a wonderful webpage with all sorts of free downloads. And she basically teaches us how we can be compassionate towards this person, towards that woman, Lynn, towards that woman who suffers. To just put your hand on your heart, touch your face like you would for me. If you knew I was suffering like that, you would hold me. I would hold you. Can you do that for you?
Yes, I can do that.
In the mirror and look deeply into the eyes of that good woman. And look maybe at that girl who was so playful, who was wonderful, young lady. But look deeply into those eyes. I've always felt, Lynn, that if you look deeply into someone's eyes, that you can see their soul. Try that.
Maybe I'm in the mirror and find mine now.
Yeah. Now listen, Lynn, you and I both know you're a good person.
I am a good person.
Yeah, that you're kind and you're loving.
I am.
That you just want to do the right thing.
Right.
Okay.
I was raised a little debutante kid, always doing the right thing.
So now
I'm going to do that, Dr. Dan. I really appreciate that. I'm going to keep that in the forefront of my mind, that I need to learn to love myself and just know that it's different, but it's okay.
Yeah, be kind. Just be kind. Easier.
Well, thank you so much.
All right. You take care of you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What a nice lady. So, Tony, thank you for
Not a problem.
for typing this in. Download. It's funny. She was on my show, Tony, Kristen Neff. She was on my show right after the Paris bombings, and my show is live. So it's right after the Paris bombings, and I wanted to talk to her about it. I said, I'm supposed to be this loving, compassionate guy, understanding and all that stuff. But I said, I'm watching this, And I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to feel compassionate and kind for the suffering of those who've died, for their families, or if I want to just effing kill those people who are responsible. And she said to me, look, she said, this isn't about how you should feel or how you want to feel. She said, but what you were missing in the process, she said, was that when you were watching TV, you were suffering terribly. And it's true. And I didn't realize it. I was suffering. I needed care. That's what I needed. I didn't need to know how to feel or how to react. I needed care. We all do when we suffer. You know, you needed it when you were 5 years old. You know, we all need it when we suffer. So, Lynn, I thank you. I thank you for your call. So Randall's still around, and I'm grateful for that. Randall, I hope it's okay if I read some of these postings. So he talks about how he was able to swallow his pride and ask for help. And then he says he feels that woman's pain the same. So if you're still listening, then Randall feels exactly what you feel. He said he's sorry it happened to him, to you, to his wife, to his son. He said, Randall said, you both explained my feelings perfectly. I'm so tired of asking for help. And he says, I agree, I hate myself now. And then he says, crying too much now, gotta go, bye-bye. Yeah, it's about those tears. You know, tears literally reduce stress. So crying really is good for you. There's chemicals in tears, cortisol. The stress hormone is in tears. So when you cry, you're literally releasing your stress hormone. It's funny, you know. We say we hate ourselves, but you know what we hate, what I hate, is what we talked about with Lynn. You know what? I hate what this disability has done to my loved ones. And I hate it more than they do. But, you know, look, we love, and we want those we love to be free of suffering. And we tell ourselves what makes them suffering. But it's not Dan that's making my loved ones suffer. It's this spinal cord issue. So, listen, we've only got a few more minutes, so if anybody wants to talk on the phone or type a question or thoughts in the chat area, please feel free to do so.
Hey, Catherine, do you have any callers on the line?
There are no callers at this time.
Thank you.
So, Tony, you've been listening for an hour. What are your thoughts? What's the experience been for you?
I mean, it's amazing to hear everyone's stories. It's nice to know that, you know, everyone has their own different story, but they're so similar. And the fact that, let me see, how can I say it? They all have it inside of them that they know that deep down inside they are happy. That, you know, they did go through trauma, but even before whatever happened to them, they had it within themselves beforehand, and now, you know, they're noticing it still, that they do still have it within them. So I mean, it's very interesting to hear that.
I wrote about, Tony, in one of my books, I wrote about an experience I had, several summers ago. So I'm out on my back deck, and, I'm sitting out there doing what I love to do, which is nothing. So I'm sitting out on my back deck, and I look over my left shoulder, and I've got some windows there, and underneath the windows, there's stucco. So I see underneath, between the window and the stucco, there's a leaf there, and I figure it's a dead leaf. So I go over there to try to knock it off, just because it's at the height where I can. So I go over there, and it's not a dead leaf. It's a living piece of ivy. And I look at the other side of the window. There's an ivy plant over there. And that one shoot of ivy burrowed its way through drywall, through insulation, through a tiny little space in the stucco, went through all of that just to find its way to the sun. That's the life force that's in all things that live. We do what we need to do to find our way to the sun. It's magical, it's miraculous, it's amazing, and it's perfectly normal. That's one incredible story that has stuck with me about who we are. I see that in my office every day. When people come into my office with all sorts of tragedies, and they say, I don't know how I'm going to live with this. And my response, whether I verbalize it or not, is, stay tuned. Because you don't know how you're going to live with it, but you will. And you look in the rearview mirror, and then you'll find the answer. Because we do. We do. We've got that life force that's always in us, saying, live, live, live. So, Tony, I want to thank you. You've been great today.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Dan, for another great webinar.
Yeah, it was a great way to start our discussion with your openness and candor. Julie Lubinsky is listening on the background. She didn't talk much because she's got a terrible cold, but I just needed to say that. I think just to annoy her a little bit, which is what I do best. So I, seriously, Tony, thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks so much to everybody who called in, who chatted with us. I agree, Tony. It was a very powerful and emotional meeting today. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we want to thank everyone for joining us today. This presentation was recorded and will be archived by the end of the week. If you want to check it out, please go to youtube.com/ReFoundation. We hope to hear from everyone next month, and please join us again for Dr. Dan's webinar next month as well. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Dan.
Take care of you, everybody.
Take care.